We have updates on Beetlejuice 2, Scream 7, and the Borderlands movie. Let's get into it. Getting right into some breaking news on Beetlejuice 2, Jenna Ortega has just given us some really interesting information about her character Astrid in the film. During an interview with Vanity Fair, Jenna Ortega revealed that she's playing the daughter of Winona Ryder's iconic character Lydia Dietz. This character's name is Astrid, which I found to be very similar to her counterpart in Wednesday, Enid. I almost thought it was like the same name for half a second, and I had to look it up. In a quote, Ortega said, "I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I am Lydia Dietz's daughter. She's weird, but in a different way, and not in the way you'd assume. The relationship between Lydia and Astrid, my character, is very important, and it's also really strange because it's a lot of catching up and putting the pieces together of what's gone on in Lydia's life since, which is nice." Jenna Ortega also criticizes the studio system a little bit here, which I love. Let's talk a little bit about that too. Jenna goes on to say, "I feel like studios nowadays, of course, they want people in seats, and you've got to do reboots or sequels or things like that to get people entwined. But to bring Beetlejuice back of all the stories is so good because people need to revisit weird, strange, off-putting stories again. We need to introduce the younger generation that's always on the phone to new artistic and creative ideas. The weirder you get with it, the more people you can get to see it. I think we'll probably do a lot for film in general." That is high praise for a sequel that doesn't necessarily need to exist. That has me very excited for Beetlejuice 2. While those were my initial thoughts with Beetlejuice 2, like why is this getting a sequel? I don't think this necessarily needs a continuation. It's a great standalone from the 80s. But with everything we know about this movie, I'm unbelievably excited about it. Michael Keaton in a recent interview talked about how they used practical effects to make this movie, none of that digital BS. That on top of doing this in your own original Tim Burton-y weird way, I'm very excited for this movie. I think this could be a banger. The title of the film is Beetlejuice Beetlejuice and implies that a third film may be made at some point in the near future. I don't want to say what I think the title is for that because I may summon something into this room that I really don't want to summon. The Killer Clowns from Outer Space video game has been this big mystery for a long time, but finally we have a release date for it in June of 2024. The clowns are finally coming on June 4th to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I cannot wait for this game, and today, February 21st, you can pre-order the game for advanced access. 1 week advanced access. The trailer for the game also just came out, which there'll be a link for that in the description of this video. Talking a little bit about the trailer, it looks very similar to like Dead by Daylight or the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game that just came out, and maybe closer to the latter there. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's 3v4, but in this game, it's 3v7, where you have 3 clowns versus 7 victims. I imagine a big reasoning for that, why there's so many survivors versus so few clowns, is because the clowns are probably going to be way more OP than my dudes over in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. Like, sure, Leatherface is fast and he's got a chainsaw, but he can't turn you into human cotton candy. All I'm saying is that if Leatherface and a killer clown like fought each other, killer clowns win in that fight all day, every day. So while this game is set up very similar to something like Dead by Daylight or that Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, I feel like it's definitely going to stand on its own for that 3v7 mechanic. It'll make it something worth buying and not just wondering after one game, wow, I should have just played Dead by Daylight opposed to spending, what, 60, 70 bucks on this? Video games are expensive, man. The trailer for Eli Roth's Borderlands came out today. Let's talk a little bit about that as well. Fresh off of Thanksgiving from last November, Eli Roth is now helming Borderlands, a movie based off of the popular video game. The trailer dropped for it today and the movie comes out on August 9th. I'm pretty excited for it, although I do have my criticisms. It's pretty hard to watch this trailer and not think to yourself off-brand Guardians of the Galaxy, but I am very excited for it because Eli Roth is directing it and it has a stellar cast across the board. The trailer gives me Guardians of the Galaxy vibes because it's got your top 40 rock song playing in the background while these goofy sci-fi laden characters are running around and fighting each other. They're also cracking jokes, getting covered in piss, typical Guardians of the Galaxy activities. The pros heavily outweigh the cons here though, because oh my god, this looks exactly like the game. It hurts a little bit. It's hard for me not to praise that attention to detail. Eli Roth's disgusting humor is very present in that trailer, which makes me feel like this is gonna have some personality and not just feel like some kind of mockbuster of something we've already seen. There's a lot of recognizable names in this cast as well, people from horror like Jamie Lee Curtis and Gina Gershon, on top of just A-listers like Jack Black and Kevin Hart. Cate Blanchett leads this one as Lilith as well. I'm very excited to see her in this, and my god, that was a hard sentence to say. Leads as Lilith. leads as Lilith. If you know nothing about the Borderlands video game, basically you just play as like a ragtag apocalyptic mercenary on this planet called Pandora, and you're looking for a vault that's filled with unimaginable treasure. If you only watched 30 seconds of the trailer, you can get that that's pretty much what the movie is about. Nothing too overly complicated. I think it's going to be a very fun time, and it's coming from a master of horror. And yes, I said master of horror. Eli Roth deserves that status in my opinion. You don't make something like Cabin Fever, Hostel, Green Inferno, and Thanksgiving and don't get that title? Come on now. A fourth Jurassic World film is in the works, and there's been a lot of weird drama with it, especially with this brand new update where the directors have changed. David Kopp is thankfully still writing the film. He of course did Lost World all the way back in the 90s, but opposed to David Leitch, who did Bullet Train directing this new movie, it is now in the hands of Gareth Edwards. Personally, I love both of these choices. I think a David Leitch directed Jurassic World film is going to feel like the last three movies in the terms of like, this is going to be really fun and over the top adventure style Jurassic Park film, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm very excited to see what Gareth Edwards' take is going to be on it, considering that he did 2014's Godzilla. I really enjoy Godzilla from 2014. Personally, it's the only American Godzilla movie that makes me scared of the gigantic monsters with the way that they're shot. It's an apocalyptic looking movie. Look at this shot right here. This is what I was expecting out of Jurassic World Dominion, a movie that was supposed to be about dinosaurs basically taking over the entire world, and it was instead about locusts for some reason. We need to apply that same kind of tragic energy we had in Godzilla 2014 to a Jurassic World film. Me personally, I think Gareth Edwards is the guy for that. I once again want to say absolutely no shade towards David Leitch. I loved Bullet Train. That movie fucks. But I just personally feel like this is what the Jurassic World franchise needs right now, a darker edge to it. We saw a little bit of that in Fallen Kingdom, which was nice. We recreated some shots from Nosferatu, but we need to take a step further than just that. We need a film with stakes. We need a film that's about dinosaurs, something to wash the taste of Dominion out of our mouths. So many of you have been asking about the Salems Lot remake, so let's talk a little bit about what Stephen King has to say about it. The Salems Lot remake has been in post-production hell for years now. It was originally slated to release on September 9th of 2022, but got pushed back to early 2023. Then it just got ejected from a theatrical release altogether. As of making this video, there is no release date for the Salems Lot remake, and we may never see it. Many have speculated that Warner Bros. Is basically using the Salem's Lot remake as a tax write-off, so they're just going to completely remove it from the slate altogether. Just like Coyote vs. Acme, a movie that is actively going through all of this BS. That is total speculation at this time though, as we do not have confirmation on that. Take it with a grain of salt, but let's be honest, that might be what's happening. The King himself talked a little bit about it a couple days ago on Twitter, saying, "Between you and me, Twitter, I've seen the new Salem's Lot and it's quite good. Old school horror filmmaking, slow build, big payoff. Not sure why WB is holding it back, not like it's embarrassing or anything. Who knows? I just write the fucking things." Stephen King is usually pretty honest when it comes towards like movie adaptation of his own works. He famously hated The Shining from Stanley Kubrick. While I disagree with that take, he's honest about his opinion. He seems to like this remake, so I feel like the only reason it's being shelved is just because Warner Bros. Wants to have that tax write-off. But like I said, just speculation. Chucky Season 3 continues on April 10th of this year after that bombshell kind of cliffhanger we were left on at the end of the first part. Chucky is aging and now looks like this. Dear God. While the Chucky TV show hasn't really been my cup of tea, I still love this franchise to death. If you have yet to see the show, there are a lot of pros to it though. Even though I'm not crazy about it, the kills are fantastic and some of the backstory that they've done on our favorite legacy characters has been phenomenal. So check out the rest of the season on April 10th. And finally, a little Scream 7 debate has been going around in the fandom that I real quickly wanted to touch on. Should Sidney Prescott return to Scream 7 and save Spyglass from the disaster that has been the last 4 months, or should she just decline and move on to other projects? This debate has once again been sparked on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, as well as some other content creators talking about it here in the space. To throw my 2 cents in there, I'm not necessarily on one side or the other. I totally understand whatever Neve Campbell decides to do with this. Here's the biggest thing about this. If Neve Campbell does come back to Scream 7 and essentially save the movie, the only way that's going to happen is if Spyglass makes up for what they didn't do in Scream 6 and actually pay Neve Campbell a good amount of money. Neve has made it very clear in the last couple of years that she will not return unless she's paid fairly. So if Neve does come back to Scream 7, it means she's getting a good paycheck, which makes old Jake here pretty happy. I understand why a lot of people want to boycott Scream 7 due to the fact that Spyglass has done some malicious stuff to its beloved cast and characters. But for me, at least this is a step in the right direction for the company by actually giving one of its lead actors a good, fair payment. The other thing you gotta consider is that Scream 7 is going to happen whether you like it or not. Spyglass is going to make this movie, they're gonna put it in theaters, and it's gonna make money because it has Scream in the title. So considering that Scream 7 is inevitable, I hope that at the very least, Spyglass can try to save face and maybe pay Neve Campbell a fair wage. That's a positive on the board, even though there are a lot of negatives. These are just my thoughts on all of these updates and theories though. What do you guys think about all of this stuff? What was the thing that was the most exciting to you? Leave me something about it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Please consider liking it and subscribing to this page if you want to see more horror updates like this. Please consider supporting me on Patreon as well. The link for that is in the description below, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.